the wonderful words of Dr. Seuss, a great prophet. Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it's a memory. How many moments in your life have been life-changing, and yet to understand the value of it took a long time? For me, probably the most important turning point of my life happened before some of you were born. 1976, June 7th, Father's Day that year. And at the time, by all accounts, I had it made. I was in my 20s, had an excellent job, worked for a well-known company, career prospects unlimited. I was in good shape, dedicated cyclist, and I was in love. What more could the boy ask for? And yet somehow deep inside in all of this, I was fairly miserable. And I attributed it at the time to being in the wrong place. Giant corporation, some of you have heard about, Johnson & Johnson. And thinking maybe I was in the wrong field, corporate finance. But I had spent so much effort, time, even through a master's degree, to have the opportunities that were unfolding in front of me. It was unthinkable that I was going to do anything different until that moment on the 7th. And I happened to be out on a training ride with some fellow cyclists. We were going over a bridge, and I missed one really important fact, and that was there was an expansion slot about yay big running right along next to me. And I dropped my front wheel into it, went down, bam, right up on the handlebars, and the only thing out in front of that set of bars, my face. And also I should mention that these pre-helmet days, they weren't even available back in the 70s. So ambulance came along, carted me to the hospital. A few days later, they repaired the left side of my face that I had flattened beautifully. Not that my face needed any more improvement. And then I was taken to my parents' home for the weeks it was going to take me to get back on my feet. So I'm lying there in bed, pretty busted up. And I realized I was happier there, going back to the inside job, I was happier there than I was out in my normal world. Something had to change. So when I finally got back to work, I decided career shift, no matter what it was, I needed to do it. So went under extensive career counseling, did an entire battery of psychological tests, which we are not going to talk about today. Thank you. And I opened myself up to the question, what would be more fulfilling? And thankfully, because of asking that question, I gained some access to the internal trainers at Johnson & Johnson, and they gave me a glimpse of what I might want to do. And that eventually led to a PhD program in organizational behavior and then on to a career in academia, which was a much better fit. Thank you. So if the accident had only forced my hand to make a career change, it would have been a blessing. What I came to realize, back to Dr. Seuss, was that that wasn't really even the half of it. The other thing the accident left me with was being prone to severe migraine headaches. And I know some of you probably know what those feel like. And at the time, what they could give me was codeine, really effective at mitigating the pain. Also wiped out my motivation to do anything. I mean, literally a blank TV screen, entertaining. So I knew once again something had to shift, but I didn't know what. Luckily, was talking to a friend, and he goes, because I was telling him my dilemma, and he goes, oh, Don, you need to do TM. What the heck was that? Some of you probably know what it is. It's the abbreviation for transcendental meditation. I didn't know what it was at the time, but luckily I had a follow-up with the surgeon a few weeks later, and I asked him about it. He said he didn't know much about this meditation stuff either, but anything that would relax the nerves that I did such a great job, my translation, damaging in my face and neck might help. So a couple months later, I took the training and darned, it helped a lot. So being curious about this stuff, it was like, well, what is this meditation stuff? Come to find out, it was the mainstay of a whole bunch of spiritual traditions that I knew nothing about growing up as a Presbyterian in the 50s and 60s. Wasn't part of the repertoire. So not only did meditation open up a new world of thought, philosophy, perspectives to me, but it also brought in something very unexpected. And that was experiences that were hard to explain. And one early on was I was doing a meditation before going out for dinner. And in that meditation, I saw my niece, who was about 3 years old, falling down the stairs in my parents' home. I didn't give it much thought. Images come and go in meditation, no big deal. Got home that night and found out that's exactly what had happened. Oh, there's more here again than I thought. So now we're going to fast forward through lots of years. We don't need to know how many. But I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia, professor at Georgia Tech in the business school. Life is going well. And I thought I had built a very good balance for my life. Over here, career, relationships, home, staying in good shape, doing all the things that somebody does to have a successful life. Over here, let's just call it an avocation, that I quietly maintained daily meditation practice, would go off to an occasional workshop that looks interesting, but I didn't tell this part of my life much about this part of my life. But again, I thought I had a good balance. And again, be careful of what friends suggest to you. Because a friend called me and said she was going to a workshop up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, on intuition, subtle energy. I might be interested. And she also happened to slip in the guy who heads it up, David, has a reputation for bringing forth extraordinary experiences for people. I didn't put much stock in that. But 3 weeks later, I'm up at the workshop. And first day, we're doing a very simple exercise. And if you would, imagine just a long, rectangular conference room. And the exercise was one at a time. Everybody stood outside the conference room. One at a time, we stood at the end of the conference room. And the key was our eyes were closed. And then each person, all our fellow participants, they came in, circled around us, and walked out. And our only instructions were, see what you can detect and feel and pick up from these people who, I didn't know most of them anyway, but with your eyes closed, try to use your subtle senses. Okay, finished up and I was pretty pleased. I actually picked up things from these people I didn't know. So I'm exiting the room and I'm ready to share with David, hey, I got something. And as I approached him, he goes, Don, what do you think of horses? What? My, brain just went on overdrive. Is this part of the exercise? What's the deal here? He didn't elaborate, so I finally said, big animals I don't want to deal with. He paused. I know, no offense to horse lovers here, please. He paused and then said, what about a group of men? And although I was physically standing there with David, well, I snapped into a totally different reality, as real as being here in this moment with you today. I'm standing on a hill. It's a bright, sunny day. I feel light chainmail on my chest. I can tell you without looking that I'm wearing a white tunic with a red cross embroidered front and back. And in my hands, I'm holding a sword that is honed to a razor's edge. And I can hear familiar sounds of battle all around me. And as I shift my focus down to the base of the hill, there are about a dozen men, ragtag soldiers, no consistent uniforms, somewhat crude weapons. And as they start to advance towards me, I know a number of things. I'm on my own. It's fatal. And the reason I'm on my own is because I feel so deeply betrayed by all the authorities that sent me out time after time to slaughter in the name of God, Christ, the church, the king, whatever. I can no longer live with this. So I've chosen to give up my life in the only way that I know how, and that is in battle. And as the men start to advance towards me, there is complete calm as I await my fate and the fate of those that I will take with me on that day. And then I snapped out of it, and I'm standing back in front of David, and he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I thought so." He turned and walked away. Okay, reality, what just happened? I stood there and shook. I had no idea how I could have gone from our workshop to that scene that was so real and back here probably in an instant. And the most important question was, why? Well, during the weekend, I got the sense that I had to make a decision. Because remember this sort of avocation over here? I was either going to shut it down, maybe just maintain a little meditation practice, but everything else, we're finished, done, too weird, gone. Or the other option that you can probably guess is stepping more fully into it to find out why this happened. And given that I'm talking to you today and revealing this, which most people don't know about my life, yeah, I knew that this had to become more of a priority. And as I followed the night and had more experiences with him at other times, I realized that the night and I had something, or a number of things in common. We were both very highly trained. We were both successful. And we both had sort of titles or honors in our society. And yet, in both cases, there was something missing here. That fulfillment, that peace. And so, over time, as I have continued with all of this, I came to realize that I had a quest. And it had to do with unconditional love. Because the night somehow prompted me to ask a question I don't think I would have asked in this lifetime. How do I more fully embody unconditional love? Still working on it. And you might wonder, as I did a lot, was this real? And for my generation, is it Memorex? Was it symbolic? Or is the guy in front of you just totally delusional, has a great imagination? And please don't ask the people in the audience who know me, because I know they'll pick number 4. But I've come to believe that, going back to Dr. Seuss's quote, each one of us has had those defining moments in our lives that have come along to redirect us. And so what have those moments in your life directed you to do? What is your quest in this life? What's been calling to you deeper than external success or what we do day to day? And I'll close with a quote from Carl Jung, who said, your vision will only become clear when you look into your heart. Those who look outside, they dream. Those who look inside, they awaken. And my hope this day and every day is that we can awaken together.